All right. Oh, can you hear me, guys? Is it live?
Поди, все работает.
Okay.
Это даст тут.
Okay. Oh, nice. It is live. Okay. Sorry, I'm a bit paranoid. It's 40 seconds late. I could have made it less, but I don't know. Uh, maybe we could chat afterwards. But okay. So I'm going to be playing three tables, and if you have any questions, let me ask. I think I'm gonna start like when I'm playing. It's very difficult for me to comment. Like I'm zero in focused, right? So I'm gonna be playing like a couple of tables, then I'm gonna close them up, and then I'm gonna answer all the questions, and then I'm gonna play again. Okay? I hope this format satisfies you. I'm gonna be playing 150s. I cannot play higher because right now my time is busy and there's like a strict schedule, so I cannot play higher than that. But hopefully, I mean, it's still gonna be fun. Maybe we would get some. Let's see. Okay, nice. So we will get some Regvo, maybe. Okay, obviously no solver. I believe he's a reg. Bulldog mode, I'm assuming, is a reg. Call intent for suited. This is my randomizer. Here I have to call. Obviously calling the turn. And probably folding on the river, I don't know. This is a spot where it's a bit difficult for him to be bluffing. And it's definitely not the top of my range. I don't block any straights, so I'm leaning towards a fold. Also, when he free axes, he's not gonna have too many gut shots in his open free axing range, because if he free axes, it definitely means he has a limp. Okay, here we call 9-8 suited. Like he has a very linear range. I'm actually not sure whether it's a free bet jam or not. I'm leaning towards folding, I think. Here there is a fish who free bets me, and then he checks. I think at this point I'm getting it in, so I might as well start betting. Yeah, and there is no getting away after that. I have to call. It's very likely that I'm behind, but well, this is a fish, right? Yeah, it feels like a fish, so we could start limping this hand. 8 suited, we're going to call. If we're offsuit is a fold. So I believe I get to bet pretty big here with my hand, and after he checked back. Okay, he called. 8 twos. Well, I don't think he's got many queens in his mini raise checking range. I think I could pot. Yeah, I think it's a jam. Well, if he's got a queen, this is like... It's obviously not the hand I am going to get him to fold, but that was not the intention. Nine-8 suited, it's going to be limp in a call. Yeah. I mean, king queen offsuit. I'm pretty sure I have to call the third. I'm not sure what I think it is. Call down. And call down. 7-4 offsuit limp. Maybe we could start playing 4 tables, we'll see. This is a reg, right? So it's a reg war, which should be more interesting. Let's min raise. Obviously call, obviously jam. Yeah, I think with a backdoor flash draw is a float. He should have some bluffs here. Yeah, it's a hand which I think is a bit too strong to fold. Okay, so here the question is, do we start float betting or do we check back? I think it's fine to start bet fold. Like my draw is not strong enough to be concerned about bet folding. King 7 suited, I think it's I could 3-bet jam it. I think King 6 suited is a 3-bet jam, but it's fine. Here we block. Here we check. And obviously fold. Fold, king queen 3-bet jam, queen 3 fold. 100% check, and on this turn we have to be check folding. This is a monopone board. Not very favorable for us. Unfortunate. And here we're checking. I believe it's still a fold because it's pretty tough for him to come up with bluffs. And I think he's going to be value betting here way too thin. I could consider check jamming. Like check jamming makes some sense. I think, I'm actually not sure, do I have a better hand for it, but having a king is not also very good because most of his bluffs going to have a king in it, so I don't even think he might be bluffing them. It's probably a fold. Check it offsuit. Given how short this guy is, I just think this min raising range is very strong because of a small blind short stack. A lot of the hands he would be open jamming rather than min raising, so I think I should be a little bit tighter here. King 9 just a limp. I could consider isolating, it's close. Queen 9 offsuit is a bit of a mix. Let's start with limp. 10-6 suited, let's start with a call. Here I'm going to check. And probably check call down. Queen 9 is a call. Here we're going to call. Here we check. Here we, I think, check. I can't represent an ace very well, so I think this is just the board which I'm going to be playing very tight. And Queen 9, I think, is just a fold. Yeah, 10-6. I'm gonna randomize this time, and 95 is just a call. Like, not much I could do here. I don't think I could block here even. Maybe it makes sense because of Paolo. But my king even chops. I think I do a better job of inducing a bluff. And ace-10 suited, just min raise, ace-1 opposite is a jam. Yeah, have to call. This time we're going to block. I'm gonna randomize between blocking and checking. For it offsuit, we're going to limp. Check 2 is randomize it. Check 6 suited, we're going to check. And this guy is definitely, I think against a min easy ice is very, very tough. I kinda lean towards folding, honestly. I don't think it's a good call, this shot, because the min ice is very linear and very tough. Here, okay, randomize it. This time I'm going to call. Ace queen is a limp, queen 6 is a limp, check 10 is a jam, and I'm gonna check fold this. Queen 6, I believe we just c-bet. Ace Queen, I believe we c-bet. Probably check back return with raising river, or just double barrel with check back. I'm not sure yet. Here, I think the king is not a good board for me. I have a lot of draws here, so I have to be given up here quite a bit. So Jack 6 is probably the check, because I'm just giving up here a ton. And I have a teeny tiny of showdown value. I believe... Oh, maybe it's fine. Here I could donk from time to time. Check-in is also fine. And freeze is also obviously a call. Jack 2 is a limp. King 9, 10 suited. I believe it's still a limp, but it's getting close. Like I could be... Oh, this is a jam. I forgot that this is a fish. This was a bad play. But let's start with check-in. Here's our question whether I call or raise. I believe I should start by calling. Min raising. I don't think I click there yet, because most people don't min raise 8 ever, so click betting doesn't accomplish much. King 3 is a call. Here I think it's just a check, yeah. So just check. King 3 is gonna be a check. Queen 6 offsuit is a jam. Ace 2 suited is a jam. Here just check, okay. And I could like... This is the board where I should be folding some kings on the turn. Yeah, and I randomize 0.5. King of spades though. But nobody is bluffing here enough, in my experience. Some kings should be folded. Well, okay. Let's check it back. Let's check. Okay. Like having a low cut, like when you randomize which kings to call, which kings to fold, usually having a low cut, you unblock his bluffs. So you'd rather fold like something like king 9, king 10, king 7 in that category. Without a club, I'm probably giving up. And against a fish, I believe I'm supposed to be bluffing here. Because fish overfold in the spots too much. Here without a club, I think I block a lot of his fold. Like I think it's just a check. Five twos. Believe we just get it in, yeah. And let me... Do we have a lot of questions? Is it going to be only 25s? Yes. First hand, dynamic board. I mean, river A is changing the nuts and out of position third barrel, so he hit the river. I mean, flop bet is in semi-bluff. Could you please elaborate on that? Because I'm not sure what you mean. I think it's a call. Okay, let's... nines I could call, right? Like his should be... Actually, nines probably is a jam. I'm not sure, because nines I could get in against eights and sevens. Like if I have sevens, it's probably a call, because I 6, 7s and 6s, because I don't dominate anything, and I'm behind all of his pocket pairs. But like with nines, I think it's still a jam. 10, 9 suited, I could like scare the fuck out of them and min raise sometimes, because against a 3-bet jam I still get in, but it looks like insanely strong. And if like he calls and he calls, I think I could fold. But the idea is basically that it looks much stronger than it is. So I accomplish the same as by open jamming, because against a 3-bet jam I don't have to fold, but it strengthens my min raising range. I mean, it weakens my min raising range a little bit at the shorter stacks, which allows me to min raise strong pocket pairs at a higher frequency. I mean, like, I don't lose the V, because I actually have some bluffs in this range. Solver does it like 10-15% of the time. Here we have to slow play, our hands just too strong. Almost every king we check raise, but this is just a call. And we have to call it down. Again, our hand has too much equity to 3-bet jam. Yeah, no reason. And easy call if he decides to bet the river. Okay. Okay. So regarding also the stats, this are the stats. This panel are the stats which are designed versus fish. So on the like these three stats is how often. So this is the aggression frequency post flop, which is different from aggression frequency pre flop. This like helps me decide whether I'm playing against an aggro fish and against a passive fish. You don't use it versus Rex, but it still could be helpful. This is the average call open jam from the stacks between 3 to 9, because a lot of the fish are overfolding versus open shove quite a bit. So by looking at the stats, if you have like 50-60 hands, you could learn a lot. Here we're playing 25 big blinds, so even though I have 40 hands, I don't have much info. But when you're playing flashes, like you get this info pretty quickly, so you could see how loose he's playing. This is the amount of hands. These 5 hands are his sizes post flop, like the number of sizes he uses. So this is block, this is half pot, this is 3/4, this is pot, this is overbet. So this helps you understand, like for example, if you see a pot bet from a fish, you can see, looking at these numbers, how often does he use big sizes, right? Because maybe a pot bet is something you should be scared of, maybe it's just a standard line for him. So when you're playing, like a quick glance at the stats could help you understand how should you be afraid of his pot. Is it the first time you use pot bet? Is it like, you know, I could get deeper. It's a limp or a jam. I mean, mostly it's a jam, given it's 100s. This is went to showdown. This is 1 when went to showdown. Check to. Okay, I'm gonna respect him and fold. You could limp it. It's indifferent. And this is his average bet size. Okay, finally, the tournament is over. And now, still not over. Okay. This is going to continue forever, apparently. Okay, let me try to answer the questions. First hand, dynamic board. I mean, river ace changed the nuts and upper third bar, so he hit the river. I mean, flop bet and semi bluff. I mean, if you're asking about 10 for suited, on queen jack 9, he doesn't have many offsuit draws, because the offsuit draws, which on queen jack 9, on queen 10 9, I'm sorry, he might have, are going to be like 8-7 or jack x, jack 7, jack 6, but these hands he's going to be limping pre-flop, right? So he doesn't have. Oh, this is going to be a really close one. I think I could fold. 8-6 suited is a call for sure. 8-5 suited, I think, it's barely. Like 8-7 offsuit is 4.7 big blinds, so 8-5 suited is something like 4.6, 4.5. I mean, it doesn't matter too much. Oh, Jesus, why does it take so long? But the logic there is that in order for him to be bluffing enough, he needs to be barreling like a king X. Like suited king X, which again he mostly limps. 8-7-7-6 he mostly limps. 8-7 is like 50-50, right? Jack 8 is a straight, and Jack 7 is 50-50, but he mostly limps. Jack 6 he only limps, and suited Jacks are 50-50. So like he doesn't have that many natural bluffs in that spot. That's what I mean on Queen 10-9. So after betting half pot and barreling, let me put off the hand. No, it's gonna be difficult because there are no showdowns. Yeah. So anyway, it's not the spot where he has a lot of natural bluffs. And since I'm at the bottom of my range, I have just like the third pair by the river. I think I can safely lay it down. What can you say about obviously no solo? I have no idea. We didn't play that much. I mean, he's probably a decent reg. I would assume since he's playing 100s. He probably must be playing well, yeah? Otherwise, he wouldn't be playing 100s. But obviously, there's nothing to say from a couple of showdowns. Okay, so obviously solve is strong reg. That's my opinion as well. Just from the fact that he's playing the stakes. What can you say about obviously no showdown with Jack high in position? Well, from what I gathered, he bet the flop, yeah? And then he gave up. That was the hand. So he bet the flop, I called. Then the turn went check check. I hope you could see it well. And on the river I didn't bet. So a couple of things to note about this spot. First, I wouldn't bet his hand. He has an open ender with a backdoor flash draw, and at 11 big blinds, he would see a lot of big check raises to which he cannot fold. Like if I've got an 8, I would be check raising like 3x, maybe even 3.5. I have some strong draws here, which I might get in. And some hands like this might get in sometimes. And he cannot fold against a check raise, but he gets into very, very nasty spots. So if I were him, I would check back this hand to pot control. If it were like deeper, like 15 big blinds, then you're fine, because at 15 big blinds, Jack 8 can't get in on the turn. It's too strong. And if I bet on the turn like half of stakes, or like just a big bet, but not all in, he could call the turn again. And let himself the opportunity to bluff a river. But at this stack depth, his bet doesn't seem to be very good. I'm not gonna check it in solver, but just from the it seems like a perfect hand to check back, having an open end and a backdoor flash draw. Once he bet the flop, he decides to check back an open ender to avoid getting jammed, and on the river he decides to check back because he doesn't represent much. Which I think is fine. Like 6 high is not that different from 10 high. But I would probably bluff his hand just because it's the bottom of the range, and for sure he should be having some 8s and some check back 9s and some pocket pairs on the turn. That like if you're not bluffing 6 high, you're probably not bluffing anything. So I would be betting, but I don't think it's horrible because I think his logic is that he doesn't represent many kings, but the point is you don't need to represent a king in order to bet the river. You're repping an 8, you're repping a 9, you're repping maybe some like pocket 7s, pocket 6s, which from time to time could bet, and like you could get called down really light. So like I think it's a bet, but I think in solve it's not going to be like a huge mistake. From my part, if the river was like a 2s, or a 3, or like a 4, right? I would have to bluff my hand. But on the king, the problem is that I cannot bet big with an 8 into the king, because he checks back a 4, there are not much hands to get value from, so I don't have much value here, so, and I have a lot of misdraws like 6-3, 3-2, 6-2, like hands like that, 7-3, some floats, other than that, like 10-6, so Jack 6 has to be shown down, but at other runouts, I would consider bluffing it. Anything else? Obviously no solo, free barrel, free hands will be big, and you have 10x. Okay, I think I've explained it, right? That on queen 10-9, I don't think he has many natural bluffs. Do you have any delay? Yes, I do have 40 seconds delay. Can you explain your hand reading and why you fold river? I think I've explained it, right? But queen 10-9, he doesn't have many natural bluffs in his open raising 3x range. Because Jack 8 is a straight, like the 9 is a straight, like most of the hands which are natural bluffs there, like Jack X and 8-6, which are open-enders, right? Which he would barrel the flop and turn. He mostly limps them pre-flop, so I just don't think he's got enough bluffs there on average. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's that. Oh, 1000. I need to be 7-6 fold. King 3 is indifferent. 91. Could fold. It's just fold. It's close. Queen 7 is limp. I need to P is assume is a reg because he's playing 2 tables and his sizings seem to be reasonable. Queen 7 bet sometimes, check sometimes. Like on this board, this is a very good board for me because it's a high board. So my limp in rage hits it pretty well. So I would be betting it on a decent frequency. Queen 7 seems a bit too weak to call 1.5. But it's close actually. I might consider calling it. But I don't think he's going to be bluffing without equity to open into this board. So being close, I think I lean towards folding. But maybe it's like a 20-30% call. I think I have better calls than that though. I just don't think he's going to be barrel no equity. And his sizing is also weird. Like 1.5 looks a lot like he has a jack and he's trying to get thin value. Because I think he should be overbetting here. Because there are not that many hands. Like, it kind of tells me that he's not a very strong player given the size he used. But maybe it's okay. 10-8 suited occasionally a free bet. Or not that he's not a very strong player. That's I think he didn't study the spot very hard. It just seems natural to want to go for a bigger size. Against the half pot, it's an easy fold. Against the third, it's probably close because King 10 dominates my gut shot. But I think it's a call. But it's close. And sixes, I think it's a jam. I think sevens is a min raise. And here, do we donk? He has a lot of nines himself, like he's not capped. So I don't know whether I want to be donking a queen. I think if I'm donking, I'm very polarized. And this hand, I don't mind folding. Okay. I think I'm gonna rep an ace, yeah. Oh, I misused the size. I meant to bet bigger. Half pot is too, third pot is too small. I wanted to bet like half pot. But I mean, queen 10 he would have called probably anyway, so it doesn't matter. Queen 10 call. Doesn't seem like the correct size, by the way. Queen 3. Oh, 92. Occasion I could jam, but 14 big blinds, unless he has a min raise, it's not a good depth to isolate because some people limp strong hands there. They keep limping to the aces and pocket pairs, in which case isolating is not that good. Because he's supposed to have a relatively high min raise, like around 20. Here we're gonna play very polarized, we're 14 big blinds, so queen is an easy check. Again, he's supposed to be very polar here. 1.5 doesn't make too much sense from where I'm standing, but let's see what he has. And queen, unless he jams, yeah, I mean, here I have to call king 6. That's fine. I mean, my hand is just too good to fold. I have 8s, I have 7s, and his sizing is choice is a bit weird. I want to see what he plays with spade. I think it's a check because like I have showdown on the 5. I have a hidden nuts, which is always good. And here, yeah, it's 89. I'm heavily consider raising. Maybe just a call. I think I wanna raise. Yeah. Sometimes jam 61 is a jam. I should be mixing between 1/3 and the jam. Queen 9. That's a nice flop for Queen 9. I prefer I have to call. So I need to pay attention to his sizing choice. He seems to be delaying like this sizing 1.5 means he delaying probably linear range and at a high frequency. I mean, there are a couple of things you can tell about, like a couple of exploits you could use given his sizing choice, but I don't think I have the time to go in depth about it. But basically, it means he probably didn't study, or he doesn't believe in GTO sizes where you try to mask your range a bit better and usually try to be in position a little bit more polar unless you have a really good reason not to do it. Like if your hand needs a lot of protection or you're playing against like a really weak regular. Like a really weak player, sorry, like against the fish. 3.5, I think it's cool. Like I said, it's very close with this hand. I mean, if I pursued it for sure, cool. Yeah, sorry, again. I think it's like 4.4, 4.5, something like that. 8, 9 off. Let's time limp, king 9 offsuit. We have to jam. Here we like maybe we could bet like 5% of the time to bluff catch river, but I think I'm just gonna check it. And just checking it, playing polar. 6 is a fold. Like this is the top of my range, so I have to call. I think I bluff here, bet here, right? Because my 9 kinda counts. Because it's 9-8. If I had like a weak 9, I think on that board it's a check. Yes. Nice. Okay, let me finish up these tournaments. And let me ask some new questions. Let me answer some new questions. Sorry, it's been a while since I streamed in English, so my English is a little bit rusty. But let's see what I can do. I think some, like king 5 is 50-50. I think king 6 is still a jam, but like some offsuit kings, I'm supposed to be isolate folding 50%, and some Like usually B is B when you're playing 3 max and small blind limps. You want to be checking back your king 7 and king 6 because I think mostly I'm supposed to be betting this. Even though it's the weakest top pair, but because we're short, I'm kind of leaning towards a bet. But some top pairs I check back, but not as high as at the deepest stack depth. And yeah, I think it's just polarized. I don't see any point in using any other size other than that. And on the river we have very easy jam. Okay. Five, six, limp. This hand is gonna get min raised like 25% of the time. 5-6. It's time to check. This is the board which again I'm very heavily going to check back because I'm going to be checking back a lot of my weak queens and jacks because we're relatively deep. Here actually fine. Huh? Okay. Now, I mean, I have to jam here. He doesn't have an ace. I'm not sure whether it's a pot or just all in. I'm gonna go for a pot. I don't think I need to like jam per se because I mostly have a 9 than an ace. I have very few aces there, right? So, but my sizing choice should be around straights because I'm checking back two pairs because he has a lot of 9s as well, right? But I cannot go all in because again my 9, even though it's very strong, but if I go all in, I get chops too many times because he has a 9 as well quite frequently. Okay. I didn't notice. Why don't want to play pairs? Well, high stakes on Poker Stars is kind of dead. I consider. Like you have to grind a lot of 100s if you want to play Poker Stars, and I don't know. Like I like playing high stakes, and Poker Stars doesn't offer as many high stakes games anymore. So I switched to Winamax. The problem with Winamax is that you have to get very high status in order to be making any reasonable money. But once you get it, like the games are running better than on PokerStars. But it takes a while to get a good status, unlike PokerStars, where you could get good status by. You could do it much more easily. Like if I get back to PokerStars, I would get the maximum status in a matter of like 5 days, probably. Will this video recorded and placed on YouTube? Yeah, sure. How is the level overall on Winamax compared to pairs? Well, Poker Stars I think is the toughest field. I didn't play GG, and I didn't play a poker, so like you have like I didn't play many sites, so I don't know which is the toughest among all of them. But Poker Stars on high stakes because there is no like cartel and everybody like there is a lot more reg warring going on. I think people learn faster because there is more motivation for them to learn, in my experience. Winamax regs are a bit softer, but at the same time, like I said, like in order to start playing Winamax, you have to get a lot of hours in to get the reasonable status. Because if you're playing Nitros, even if you get the red diamond 5, you're still not making that much money, right? And you have to pay a lot of rake to get to red diamond 5, like a lot. So That's kind of protects Winamax. So the regs are going to be softer there. In my experience, PokerStars is the toughest field, but there may be some other fields I'm not aware of. Maybe right now it's gotten a little bit softer, but again, I don't know. Again, from what I know, for example, when I was playing PokerStars, I got the highest win rate playing one case. Like playing one case has made me so much more money, and a lot of people didn't even play them because they didn't want to. They didn't want to wait, and they didn't like the variance because you cannot. I think you cannot get one case into a pool, or maybe you can now, but for additional fee, and they didn't want to because my GPV, I think on one case, like I always played with one fish, and so my GPV was something around 60 chips, maybe 70, but by just playing like over a year, I played around maybe 4,000 one case, maybe 6,000, not a lot. But my EV was like I made around 50,000 just playing one case. So even though they run very rarely, they were pretty soft for a time. And it's very counterintuitive because these are the highest stakes, right? But the games are super soft. Like it's insane how soft they are. You just get insane because you always play with fish. There are no battling. Like it's very soft. So again, it's reasonable to assume that there are some tough, like 100s could be tougher than 500s sometimes due to this asymmetry. It's not like cash, from what I gathered. Which spots is better to study? Heads up 10 big blinds deep. Well, the best thing you can do is study pre-flop, and by studying pre-flop, I mean like you make a lot of money playing versus fish, right? So you need to get your ranges right against different types of fish and against different types of weak regs who don't study as hard. So learning how to exploit underlimp, overlimp, overfold versus ISO, underfold versus ISO, that some people don't have min raising ranges at mid stacks. Some people under isolate a lot. And this is fish because a lot of fish are overfolding versus open jamming to wide. Some fish, like all these spots, you need to learn them extremely well. Because most people think they do know them because they know roughly how to play, but there is a huge gap between knowing how to play and knowing precisely what to do. Like when you know like 9 big blinds strategy X, 7 big blinds strategy Y, and so on, you make a lot more money. Because even though the difference in EV is small between like really good strategy and perfect strategy, or like good strategy and really good strategy, the difference in like it's not as obvious, but because the spots are so frequent, it really makes sense to grind the spots down and know and get precisely how you want to be playing. So yeah, so pre-flop is one of the more, I mean, playing spins, it's the most important street. If you're playing Nitros, like you could easily spend like 50-60 hours just studying pre-flop, and you might think there's nothing to study, but you would be dead wrong because there's so many exploits versus fish you could do, and different fish, like fish who limps very wide, fish who doesn't limp, fish who's on tilt and open jams every hand, fish who limps even like 5 big blinds or 4 big blinds. Like their pre-flop strategy are going to be so different, and knowing exactly what to do versus them, because fish never adjusts, right? So if you know these 5-6 different types of fishes and how their preflop is different, and knowing exactly how to exploit that is going to get you a huge advantage because you could like double your win rate versus them. I mean, maybe doubling is optimistic. Yeah, doubling is probably optimistic when we're talking Nitros, but you could definitely get additional 20-30%. Yeah, doubling is like you could double if you're playing 25 big blinds and if you know what type of fish, because you get more hands in and at the deeper stacks. Okay. Let's get more tables in. Chili baby. I have no idea who that guy is. I presume it's a rag because like I don't. Oh, it's a fish. That's nice. I mean, this is a fish. I presume it's a fish. I presume it's a fish as well then, right? I should just barrel this. And ace-10, I should just go all in. Because fish never isolates enough and at deep stacks they call open jam a bit wider than they should. They really like calling pretty hands. You could consider calling, but at 25 big blinds I probably would just call. Big top pair is a check unless I have a really high frequency and want to balance my bet check raise. Here again, I get a low frequency, so I check in order to have a raise in range on the river. But I'm gonna be betting like 90% of the time, but from time to time checking back makes sense. I think I could sneak a value bet in here. Yeah? Okay. Let's get Paula here. Let's limp here. Easy call, I think. It's weird. The size in which he chose. Very weird. But I have to call here. And here check fold. Easy. Here check. Queen of diamonds. Well, is it check back to call? So here we check, here. Oh, okay. And I'm gonna be donking the river because he bet like half pot on the turn, which doesn't seem like a very strong hand to me. And it's pretty obvious that I'm playing against a fish, right? Okay. Queen 6 I could consider calling on the river because I don't block. I don't block any of his bluffs, like which is mainly 5-4, 5-3, 4-3. And bet. Here I have to call. Queen 2 is one of the better hands I would have to be bluffing there because I have an overcard. Jesus, I cannot explain it that quickly. I'm sorry, guys. Here I have to jam. I don't expect to be. Oh, Jesus. I don't expect to get called that often, but. Okay, here I need to be checking back because I'm scared of a check. Oh, I could block, but because it's a fish, I'm kind of scared of him being able to jam. So I think against the fish I should check it. I don't want again to do this weird check raise stuff. Do we consider raising? That doesn't seem very strong. Let's raise. Ace 9 suited, it's a call. And king 4 is 1.5. Oh, Jesus Christ, okay. That clearly didn't work. I'm assuming it's a fish, right? So again, I'm just... It looked like a fish bet to me. It's a weak pair. Ace-9 is close on this board. Kinda lean towards a call. Because he shouldn't have many 5s and 2s. He shouldn't have many 8s. And this is like the top high cut I'm going to have. Oh, Jesus. I think he's just gonna value bet here, ultra thin. Okay. Didn't work. King 6 is a 3-bet jam. I should consider, like, my randomizer was very high, and I should consider check japping for occasionally. But maybe ace-9 is not the best hand to do it with. Sevens, like, this is not the board I want to be blocking because it's a very dry, it's a very wet board, yeah. So I think it's like half pot or 3/4, something like that. And here I would have to check. And here I could check as well. Oh Jesus, 4.5 is brutal. I have to call. Yeah, I have to call. Okay, I have to bet like 1.5. Yeah, I cannot call with sevens. Here, it's like half pot, 3/4. Yeah, it's not like three. I think it's something around that. No. Okay, maybe it's like half pot. It's tough to say. Maybe like 3/4 is a bit too much. Oh, probably betting half pot. Maybe checking. No, he shouldn't have that many queens because he free jams a decent number. But okay, let's check. Let's jam. Let's limp. Okay, he bets half pot this time. Sure. Here, believe we have to call down, but I don't know. Oh Jesus, he jams. Wow. I mean, like, from what I know, jamming on the turn is super strong. And yeah, I think I have to bet. Like, when people jam the turn, they never have enough bluffs. So I think Solver calls my hand because this is one of the stronger hands I have. Like, it's stronger than Jackson. It's stronger. Than Jackson 10s because I have more equity against the queen, but I just don't think he's ever bluffing there. I mean, he's bluffing there some combo draws, but not nearly enough. Oh, okay, let's raise. This is a board which he should be betting at a very, very low frequency. So it's fine to raise it. Probably mostly betting because king exit board is kind of like an ace X board for deeper stacks, for shorter stacks, right? So like I'm supposed to be betting here really high frequency because he's quite capped. Again, I could bet like 20% of the time. Let's block. Okay. I checked too quickly. Here I actually think I should be betting because ace 4 of diamonds. Like I hit this board quite well. Do we block? I think we block, yeah. Cannot check call though. Jesus. This is a tough spot because I have an ace X with a backdoor flash draw. And this is the board. Oh Jesus, that's a terrible jam. This is so ridiculous. Like, I mean, it is one of like, why would you ever jam there? Oh, because my range is so polar. Okay. It doesn't make sense. Again, if for some people it's not clear why, it doesn't matter what he has, like this jam is atrocious. And it kind of justifies my check a little bit more. Check. Call. Well, I kind of like raising. Oh no, I think I have to check now. I mean, I have some showdown value, yeah? Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. He limps. Oh god. Should I don't think it's a jam yet. I think it's a bit too weak. Especially given that he checked. I could... Maybe it's just a fault. I'm a bit scared of this guy as well. Like, if it were like king 6 offsuit, I think it's a jam. King 5 offsuit, I think it's a bit too deep for me to jam. But like, it's clear from his limp that he will be calling me sometimes with worse hands, which is important to note. Like, he might limp call like queen 8 offsuit and jack 7 suited and shit like that. Maybe it's still a jam, by the way. The more I think about it, the more I think that maybe it's a jam, given the showdown which he did, like bet small and call the raise, because it implies that he's gonna be very liberal with his calls pre-flop. I think it's just a showdown. And jack 8. Could we merge and get value from like 8-7 and get him to fold some 9s? I think I just have to bet. I think our hand just has too much showdown value, honestly. Yeah. Like, I hope he doesn't jam. And as long as he doesn't jam, it's fine. And I think I get him to fold some weaker, some 9s. Well, blocking here makes sense, yeah? Yeah. Queen 8 seems like an ISA, right, versus him, because he's just very limpy. Like he was limping the button. He has this. Like it's just a very good hand. Nice. So he called a 10, and then he just gave up. That's what I'm talking about. Ace king offsuit. I think this time I'm just gonna jam. Like you could limp occasionally to protect your range, but it's mostly jam. Okay. He's supposed to be donking this bot, I think, because it improves him more. Something tells me I should just give up. Because they're not gonna be probing as wide, and I don't have a heart. I think we just 100% bet, yes. And I will be betting here without equity as well. This is one of the better bots for me, King X and Ace X bots, because he doesn't have that many King X. I think it's just a jam. Could I get away with just betting 4? Or I just have to jam? I think I just have to jam. Oh, what do you know? He did have a king. This is a pretty good draw. He should ice a queen jack, queen 9 quite, and I have a backdoor flash draw. Okay. Okay, so now the question is, could I bet call the turn? Or should I just check? Okay. Because again, we're at the point 9-7 cents. I mean, one big blind I have to call. Okay. We're at the point where I might call a check jam on the turn with my draw. But I'm not sure how well I dominate his other draws. Okay. What's good GPV on average on Winamax for the games you're playing? I honestly have no idea. I'm not that good with chippy V's, and what's considered to be a good one and a bad one, but I think in Nitros, like if you've got like 14, it's good. If you have above 14, it's excellent. If you have like 12, 11, it's average. But I don't know. Like 14, 15, I think it's like a good win rate of like a strong regular. But if you go above that, then it's an excellent win rate. On poker styles, it was a bit lower. I think it was like 12, 11 is like is a good win rate, and then like 13, 14 was an excellent. 300 small blind. I like showing pre-flop A7 versus Swish. Some players told me that jam this type of hands with Swish lost some EV because Fish makes more mistakes on post-flop. That's a very good point, but like the mistakes which we make on post-flop is actually bad for you with your Ace-10, because like the Fish, how can I say, the mistakes which Fish make usually is that they fold way too much. And you can see it with Fish red line going down like this, yes? And the blue line is actually like around 0. So you cannot capitalize on Fish making mistakes post-flop when the biggest mistake is overfolding and your hands beat most of their faults, you know? Because Ace-10, you either get to showdown or you block the flop and get to showdown, something like that. So you cannot get that much. So just you make more EV by exploiting the call-in way to lose pre-flop. Then you cannot exploit them overfolding and underfloating the flop, the turn, so on. So it's not a good hand. Like you capitalize the post-flop mistakes by limping very loose from the small blind, limping like really trash a hand like 10 free ops, so jack 2's off, shit like that. But I don't see like any point in 3x and ace 10 offsuit, because 3x and ace 10 offsuit actually makes money when big blind 3-bet jam hands which you dominate. Mainly hands like ace 2, ace 3, ace 4, some king 6 offsuit, hands like that. But if they don't do that, and Fish doesn't usually do that, Fish usually play pretty snark in position, they just call, they don't 3-bet enough, then, you know, like, you don't get to generate extra EV. So pre-flop you're losing EV because they're playing way too passive, and you don't get compensated enough for it. So that's my opinion on this spot. How many hands do you need to start casting the heart? Well, it depends a lot on the heart you're using, because what I mean by that is that it depends a lot on the stats which you're looking for. Because stats pre-flop, you could start using this information pretty reliably. For example, if the fish limps from the button one time, that's already telling you something, because there are fishes who limp on the button and who do not. And fish who do not limp on the button play very differently from fish who do, right? Because the fishes who like to limp on the button, they're gonna be limping from the small blind way too wide. They're gonna be under isolating in a bunch of spots. So your pre-flop, just after one hand, when you saw him limped on the button, you already this is enough to change your strategy, right? That's enough to think about this fish differently and capitalize on that. For example, right? Or if he limped like 4 big blinds, heads up, you're like, that's like a big red flag for you, because it conveys a lot of information of how you should change your game. Other stats like the average VPIP or their fold versus con c-bet, unless it's a regular fish, you never have enough stats to really trust it. Like the only stats you could get to trust playing versus fish is like pre-flop, and if you're talking about Rex, you need to get for post-flop again. I think you need to get at least 5,000 hands to, unless they have like massive mistakes, but you need to get at least 5,000 hands, I think, to get an average estimation of how they're playing. Below 5,000 hands for post-flop, especially if we're talking about nitros. If we're talking about like regular speeds, maybe it's around 3,000, 3.5, but I don't think you could go below that. I can tell you this because people, like some people who played against me, like when I later coached them, they showed me my my stats versus them, and also when we like my students also that the difference sometimes when you play like 1,000 hands or 2,000 hands and then like 5,000 hands, sometimes a player could have a fold versus c-bet like 60 for around 1,000 hands, even though his real fold versus c-bet is like 45, but he's just getting a really bad streak. And this happens more often than you think, right? Like sometimes people could just get unlucky for a very long time, especially again when you're playing nitros, when you don't get to have enough post-flop. It's crazy how big the variance is sometimes. No, I mean overall. I mean overall, not for the stat. How is the hat called? This is a school hat. I guess you could call it NerdSide hat. But soon there's going to be even a better one. But you could say it's NerdSide hat. I need to be one of the worst players in Winamax. Well, okay. I mean, I haven't played with any of them. Because I don't play 100s regulars. So I don't know. Don't you use tag to differentiate regfish? Yeah, sure. But there is a huge difference between fish and reg. And different types of fishes. Because the fish, like you obviously have a rough idea of an average fish, but when I just tell you, oh, don't worry, he's a fish, for example, basically the information which I convey to you is that he plays very badly, right? But he could play very badly by being way too aggressive or way too passive. You know, he could have huge size intels, or he could just be using only one size, for example, like one big blind, always be betting half pot. So these are very different strategies, and there are very different ways of exploiting them. So yeah, you use stack, but you also rely on their stats to tell you how to play against them. Like, is he a limper, or does he have a donk? Because fish who has a donk plays very differently from fish who doesn't have a donk, right? And usually you don't need to tag them, because you could just look at their hat and you could see, oh yeah, he has a donk, so I'm gonna change my strategy in that and that and that. Do you prefer smart play as opposed to grinding? It's the way you're comfortable playing or the school's approach. You talked about choosing a room and opponents. For many players, the process of playing smart is extremely exhausting. Is it possible to combine this? That's an excellent question. I think it depends on the format, because for Nitros, you have to grind a lot, and smart playing is just exhausting you, as you mentioned, much quicker. and in Nitros you don't get that much of an upper hand by playing really smart. So I don't think it's good. I think you need to have a decent autopilot if you're playing Nitros. So you should be playing your big game, but you shouldn't make like horrible mistakes. You should know your pre-flop, you should know the basic exploits, you should have prepared like your basic strategy, and you should have prepared like your basic exploits from the opponents you're facing. But you don't have time to go deep into hand, and usually, because in Nitros, like the more hands you play per tournament, the higher your win rate is. And so if your win rate, for example, I'm just saying, making things up, but for example, 7 big blinds per 100, yes? And you on average play, say, 9 hands. I think it's 8 or 9. Okay, now, if you raise your win rate by from 7 to 8 big blinds per 100, but you dropped like 1.5 hands, because now you're playing slower, or you drop even more hands because you are playing less tables, right? Because you have to sacrifice your hands per hour in order to play better. It's not worth it, usually. Because the win rate, extra win rate which you're getting by playing smarter, like you would have made more if you just played more tables and you played them faster. From the calculations which I've made. So it's usually not worth it. If you're playing Reg War, like if you're Reg War in other regs, then yeah, you could drop the number of tables, because like you're still, like everybody's there losing money. So it doesn't make... Unless you're trying... Like, unless you have a reg who plays like only 6 tables, for example, then you can open 12, right? And you have 6 and you're still catching fish, then it makes sense. But if you're playing like a lot of tables, then it makes sense to drop a little bit of tables and really try to focus, because you're not seeing fish anytime soon anyway. But it depends. If you're playing regular spins, especially if you're playing higher stakes, then yeah, obviously focusing. Or if it's focusing makes more sense, then just mindless clicking is probably not a good idea. Or if you're like playing cash or MTTs, specifically MTTs. But for spin and goes, usually it's not worth it to play really smart. Usually, like if you've learned a new thing, like you had a recent coaching and your coach told you some new stuff about your strategy, then yeah, like probably it makes sense to play really smart for 1-2 weeks, so you could really get these new things integrate them into your game. But like after a while, when you're used to it, you need to get back to autopilot. Unfortunately for you, spin and goes are about good autopilot, not about good playing. Like you just have to play a bunch of hands. That's basically it. But I personally really enjoy thinking about my hands deeply. I really like this. I really like to play post-flop. I really like to tank for like 15 seconds and really get the idea of what I do. I just enjoy this feeling. I'm like solving a puzzle, yes? So I really like it, but unfortunately somehow I got into spins where it's not worth it. So I have to autopilot most of the time. Like MTTs probably would be better for me, like to really tank and think for 1 minute about a hand and really get precise. I really enjoy this process, but for some stroke of luck or unluck, I got into spin and goes, and here I am. And like, to tell the truth, spin and goes, it's not about deep thinking, it's about autopiloting. How is the state of spin right now compared to 2 years ago? It's an interesting question, because one door closes, another door opens. So far, concerning my win rate, for example, almost like before it was each year my win rate was higher and higher. Now it's not like that. It's kind of levels, but still, it's weird because on PokerStars the game dropped, but then you have Winamax where I think I could make the same amount as I used to make on PokerStars, although I'm not sure because I did make a lot on PokerStars. So and because there were times when 500s were running constantly, and that was the golden time. But right now, I think for high stakes it got worse. Especially on GG, the situation is very weird because you could play 200s, but there's like this weird shit with PVI, right? And so a lot of the gags somehow figured out how to get the high PVI of 1, so they get to play 200s, and the action is very good. And some people didn't get PVI 1. So if you're playing GG, it's more important to figure out how to make how to get the high PVI rather than how to play good. But for high stakes, it got worse, I think. For mid stakes, it's the same. For low stakes, I mean, it's always the same. But for mid stakes, it never changed. Nothing changed, I think. You might even make an argument that it got a bit better. But yeah, the high stakes, it got, I think, a bit worse. What's the result at Winamax so far? Well, I cannot save them. Because yeah, they're pretty good, but I have an agreement where I cannot talk about my results, so unfortunately this information is confidential. Are you planning to stream anytime soon? I don't want to make any promises. I'd think about it. Maybe. Maybe I could manage to stream once a week for a while, but I don't enjoy streaming as much, I think. Because when I'm playing, I'm usually like super concentrated, and talking from my hands make it difficult for me to play. And breaking hands and considering different strategies is not what people enjoy. From what I gathered, people really like watching streams and watching hands because you don't have to concentrate your brain, and it's kind of like watching Netflix. So, and this format is not the best for me in terms of enjoyment, because I really tilt when I make silly mistakes, and when I'm talking and trying to commentate what I'm doing, I make silly mistakes all the time. And always, like, I get to commentate like 20% or 30% of what's going on in my head, which is also very frustrating. Because my thoughts run faster than I can articulate them, right? And I get this weird when I'm talking about one hand, but I'm thinking about other stuff. So it's a weird thing. Have you ever faced tough competition, PokerStars, Winamax, or all sides? Yeah, sure. There are plenty of good regulars. And again, spin and goes, it's not about being the best player. It's about, like, can you grind a lot? Like, if you battle for the slot, can you grind, like 8 hours? Do you have a very deep bankroll? Can you withstand? Because like when you're Greg Warren, you're still losing money. Everybody loses money. So if, for example, I have a deep bankroll and you don't, even if you're better than me, you still wouldn't get the slot. And it's gonna be difficult for most people to get back in for Greg Warren, unless you're like a very, very, very strong player. But still, it could be rather expensive. Okay. Do you still play with pool insurance? Yes, because when I got to Winamax, I expected, like, the rake was higher and my rake back was close to 0. So the variance could strike me really hard. And there was some scenarios, according to my calculations, where I could lose like 200, 300k. And especially if I was planning on Reg Warren, for regular cartel. So, I mean, I didn't want to take a risk of losing like 300k, so I decided that pool insurance is worth it. Yeah, I mean, it was a small risk, but it was realistic. So I'm like, okay. On Poker Stars, I didn't want to do the insurance because my win rate was high as it is, and I kind of enjoy paying more attention to different multipliers. Like I kind of like this stress which you get that, oh, maybe I hit a really high multiplier, and then you're like super focused, really trying to win it. It's a very it's very nice feeling, this rush of adrenaline in your veins. So I prefer it. And in Poker Stars, like if you just kind of play the same every table, it's not as interesting. But here I decided to play it safe. Oh, I think you could say do the settings in Windows. The problem with white cursor is that sometimes when you have like a bunch of tables, like 15 tables, I lose my white cursor and I don't know where my mouse is. So yeah, and I made a lot of like very expensive misclicks, like very expensive misclicks. So if I made it like black, it's really difficult to miss it. So I always know where it is. But with white, sometimes I missed it and didn't know. So you see, it's really big, right? And it's black. There was a point that it was even larger. It was like huge, like this, because I need to click on the button. Yes, so it's okay if it's big, but I know where it is all the time because when you multiply, then sometimes it's difficult. It's difficult to figure it out. Okay. Well, it's been 1.5 hours. I gotta go now, but I'm sure I promise I will do it a couple of more times. And yeah, I think this format is fine because I just stream and I ask questions when I stream. If you'd prefer it, I could. Do you think there is any benefit of playing a super aggressive playstyle versus reg, like Stefan style or strategy-ish? I mean, nobody. Like in spin and goes, again, it's much more difficult to go. Like, if you're playing against a decent opponent, you cannot really take them to dark places where he doesn't know what to do. Like Stefan does in Cash Game 3, because Cash Game 3 is super difficult, right? And there are a lot of the spots which you cannot study. In Spin and Goes, the games are a lot more simple. There's a lot of pre-flop. There is a lot of like. There's just not much room left for creativity. You have to just know the basics. You have to know the fundamentals of GTO. You have to know the tendencies. You have to study your opponents, and that's it. And you don't usually have that many tools. There are like a couple of exploits, but that's about it. There are some really difficult exploits, but yeah, there are some really difficult exploits, but you don't need to know them that much. Which reg has the best results? I honestly do not know. I mean, yeah, I've never been that much interested in that because you just work very hard and try to do the best, to improve your results, right? That's all you can do. And, well, if someone has better results than you, so be it. But, like, I don't know. I've never been interested. I heard stories that there was some guy on Winamax who has on average 18, 19 chips, which is insane. If you have like 19 chips, like that's something. I think on Poker Stars for a while, probably had the best win rate. Because the average TPV was around 14, I had like 29. But on Winamax, I don't know. But Winamax is a different animal. You have to be really good versus fish. Like really, really good. And for GTO-oriented players like me, it's a bit tougher because you have to keep in mind two different strategies, like two completely different strategies. And the tools for studying are also different because you cannot use GTO trying to exploit fish, right? You can use GTO principles, but that's about it. Okay, guys, I really need to go now. It was fun streaming after a long pause. I think we could. I think we could do it next week. I'll definitely try to find time. Okay. Ciao. See you later.